Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be recapping everything with the new faction of the Dark Court that came in last Friday. So this place is associated to the Kingdom of Golvania. This also allows it to reach 23 stars and allowed it to get a permanent extra HP off of reaching 20 star. If you have absolute max renown, it also allowed getting one additional attack off of the total amount of renown. As far as the location itself, it ended up coming in with a +2 purple, +1 yellow, -1 green banner, which makes the restriction, of course, a purple yellow, which does allow you to use those kind of finesse builds to kind of cheese it, since there is double yellow on both the first battle and the final battle, as well as quite a few skull spam options that are available, as well as pretty much all the really good insta kills like Zugoff, Iron Guts, stuff like that. You also have access to Thrall, you have access to Leprechaun, so definitely quite a few options that will allow doing this place rather efficiently. As far as the layout of this place, you tend to go more towards this upper path and then kind of branch from there going in multiplier order. The only one that seems to be guaranteed treasure room is the one all the way in bottom right. However, a few others can occasionally be treasure rooms. However, they are not guaranteed. Overall, if you're going for a rush method, you're just going to go from here to there. That's also generally the way that you end up starting off most of these floors in order to try to take multiplier order. However, a couple of them do switch around as far as what rarity they end up being as far as overall multiplier and difficulty on them. However, that's pretty straightforward. You just kind of just go that way, take this one for last, and then just go straight into the boss is normally how this ends up panning out. As far as various teams that can be used, as far as the absolute cheapest, triple finesse, nice way to go whenever you have access to yellow, especially if there's a lot on the first and final battle that can end up taking double damage to their extra damage to yellow. Definitely pretty good. They just loop mana forever because they do 6 to all allies as long as you have the Storm in play, and you can end up doing that off a Stormcaller hero class. Only needs to be fully traded. You don't even need anything else with it. You don't even necessarily need to be using Nimbus Bow. It's nice to get the mana going. However, any weapon in the Terra game can be used instead, and you just do the double yellow banner of any sorts and just put the other +1 into whatever your weapon color is, and you'll pretty much be good to go. As far as what I personally ran for the earlier battles, of course, if you have access to it, Sir Quentin Hadley into Guard's Avatar, pretty good way to go. It's basically the alternative way of doing Rowain. Whenever you don't have access to using Rowain and Delves, well, Guard's Avatar is the next best bet. It is a mythic, however, it basically gets to do the exact same thing. Sir Quentin Hadley is just here in order to feed it half mana start, and then you just go for the nice big cast, and you're good to go. Get a nice big cast down, and you just end up winning. Also, Guard's Avatar should actually be 1 higher. I just accidentally set it up slightly incorrectly. But you just use Thrall, get the cast off, and you get all the mana. Of course, Thrall does 1 billion destroys, and in Delves, he does even 1 billion more destroys, so you're pretty much guaranteed going to be doing a full board clear. Once again, we're using Thrall here. Of course, you do have access to Leprechaun and other stuff if you wish to use that, and you can also do builds that have both Leprechaun and Thrall if you so choose. This particular one, of course, a little bit more towards the expensive side. However, this is what we ran for the higher range. Basically a Hiking Iron Gut Zugoff combo, pretty much the strongest stealth team that even exists. Similar combos like this where you just use a nice mana accumulator, get it all up quickly. The Hiking Iron Gut gets his Devours. You then go crazy with Zugoff. This also gets rid of anything that has immune. You can also use Karandara's Curse to get rid of immune. Alternatively, you could also go like a second Iron Gut or something similar, or even just Hero if you want to go for Hero class XP. If you haven't leveled all the Hero classes yet, literally just free XP. You can use any Hero class there with any weapon and just use the top 3 as your main team. Since Karandara is mostly just there to curse for a little bit of backup. And aside from that, the last thing as far as teams is the Pure faction. You can simply just go Dark Knight into double lean. You can also double up on Dark Knight if you want to play it a little bit safer. However, she will be your main damage source. She has actually going to be pretty good outside of the faction as well as the weapon, which we need to go mention before we do conclude, as it is worth mentioning for once, unlike normal where it's like useless. However, as far as this troop, it is the most noteworthy of the 4 and probably the only one that will actually be used outside the context of the faction. This ends up draining all mana from an enemy and then deals damage to all enemies above them, which is a quite unique mechanic compared to what exists. Obviously, there's quite a few for below, but I believe this is the very first one that does it specifically above. One other thing to mention about this is this does not count as AoE since it's doing damage to a single one and then doing everything above. So if they do have Submerge, it will still hit them, and that's pretty relevant for this faction as they do have Submerge. However, this will still hit them, even though it's hitting all enemies. It will still hit through Submerge, so that's pretty nice, as it makes this Pure faction quite a bit more convenient and would be very annoying otherwise. But basically, you generally cast this all the way on last slot. The only way that you wouldn't do that is if they're about to cast something intimidatingly. If you just want to go and mana drain it and then just get whatever damage you get out of it. At minimum, you're going to be hitting at least one, even if you are hitting first slot. Though ideally, you do want to hit last slot so that it will hit all four. It has a little bit of spell reduction, so it doesn't die as easily. And one nice thing is it does have a little bit of magic steal. It's pretty good in Delves, kind of like a little bit of attack steal. Just make sure that they don't really get to do as much. But this will also allow you to do technically 8 more damage per cast, since stealing 2 magic means you actually claim that 2 magic. Not only are they going to lower, but you're going to higher every single time you take an extra turn, and that's for every single lean that's on your team. So you end up getting quite a bit of extra magic that way, basically stealing 6 from the enemy, while each one of them ends up gaining their individual 2, which is a total of 8 damage since they're hitting all 4 of them. Overall, ends up working out pretty well. Dark Knight's mostly just here for a little bit of tanking, gains barrier, has a little bit of board control. You basically just use it for when you're about to die on first slot to make sure you don't, and you can also use it for a little bit of mana accumulation, though do keep in mind he's going to block on purple, which is the reason for going double yellow on the banner. And lastly, to conclude with, the weapon is not horrifically bad for once. So as far as the weapon itself, right over here, you can end up getting in the shop off of tier 4. You can also get on Soulforge if you happen to have done less than tier 4. However, I highly advise getting tier 4 if you didn't already. But this, of course, will come back whenever this faction ends up coming around on a Tuesday again, so whenever the next Golvania event happens to be. However, this is actually a pretty good weapon. Main thing that makes it pretty noteworthy is it's one of only a few weapons in the entire game that has Drain All Mana on Hero. This is quite a bit more relevant specifically on Hero just because of how utility-based it is. The really relevant thing about this, though, is it uses purple, as well as 2 colors, but particularly purple. This means it will have Archmage's synergy. One other thing that's pretty nice is it has a steal 2 mana from the first slot, but it also has Darkstorm. So you use this with Archmages, you're going to have the Purple Storm in order to have the higher amount of purples. You're also going to have that little bit of mana drain, which is also steal, similar to the other one. So not, they are losing 2, you're gaining 2. So technically this has a 12 mana cost in a sense. However, this also allows it to drain 2 enemies. You'll drain 2 mana from the first enemy, and then you'll also be able to full drain any of the other 3. So this will be pretty convenient since it'll make sure whatever's in first slot, even if it has full mana, will make sure it will not be able to cast and will delay it by at least 1 turn unless they happen to have enchant, and it will also allow you to full drain a different one. So overall, quite a bit of value. The only real big downside here is it does deal damage to 2 random enemies, so you're not necessarily going to be choosing what it is. It does gain a little bit of boost ratio. You're not really using it for its damage. You're mostly, if you're going to be using this thing, using it for its full mana drain. There are still quite a bit of instances where you might want to use an Essence of Evil or something similar instead of this. However, because of the silence and everything, basically does what a mana drain would do. Though there are some situations where you might just want to have the double mana drain, and this is definitely a great utility weapon to keep an eye on, as I feel like this will have some pretty decent purposes. It's a bit of a slow weapon, however, it seems like a weapon that's going to be pretty good at not losing. Kind of reminds me of Rope Dart a little bit. Unfortunately, does not have an automatic extra turn. That would have been amazing if this thing actually got it, but at least it got the Purple Storm, which still has a bit of synergy. Highly advise getting this weapon if you don't just pick up every single weapon every single time, though it is also advised just picking up every single weapon you ever see, as it is way cheaper getting them when they first come out than it is trying to get them in Soulforge whenever they come back around. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for everything with the Dark Core. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Best of luck if you're going to be finishing up the faction. Overall, it wasn't too difficult. You have infinite barriers, so that alone can kind of tank forever. If you feel like you're struggling too much, doubling up on the tank will probably be a good way to go, since if you get lucky enough, you can just kind of tank forever and just kind of keep poking them very slowly and just outplay the AI on the board, and eventually you would end up winning. Though unfortunately it doesn't gain attack, so it's not going to be a particularly quick win, but that strategy would at least be able to cheese it if nothing else. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.